Geniuses are rare people, blessed with an intellect and ability far ahead of their time. They stand out in one or more fields, whether it's physics, chemistry, music, art, or even gaming. What makes them remarkable isn't just raw talent, but the lasting legacy the world continues to celebrate centuries later. Today, we'll take a look at 10 of the greatest geniuses across different fields, individuals who helped shape the modern world we live in. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is one of the most recognizable names in history, the physicist who reshaped how we think about space, time, and energy. Born in Germany in 1879 to a Jewish family, he didn't start speaking until he was about 3 years old, which led some to believe he might not be very bright. But his curiosity quickly set him apart. He questioned everything around him, often frustrating his teachers, and by his teenage years, he had already developed the independent thinking that would define his career. At 15, Einstein left school in Germany and moved with his family to Italy. A year later, he applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. He failed the entrance exam the first time, scoring high in math and physics but poorly in other subjects, but he passed on the second attempt. In 1905, often called his miracle year, Einstein published a series of papers that changed physics forever, including the special theory of relativity and the famous equation E equals mc squared. His work challenged long-standing Newtonian principles and introduced a new way of understanding the universe. Einstein left Germany for the United States in 1933 after Hitler came to power. Concerned about the possibility of Nazi Germany developing advanced weapons, he co-signed a letter to President Roosevelt urging the U.S. to act quickly. That letter helped spark the Manhattan Project, though Einstein himself had no direct role in building the atomic bomb. After World War II, he expressed regret about the letter and became an outspoken advocate for peace and nuclear disarmament. With his wild hair, gentle wit, and unmatched intellect, Einstein became more than just a scientist, he became a cultural icon. To this day, his name is synonymous with genius, and his discoveries continue to shape science, technology, and the way we see the world. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is remembered as the man who forever changed how we understand life on Earth. Born in 1,809 inches, Shrewsbury, England, Darwin was not an exceptional student in his youth. He preferred collecting plants, rocks, and insects to studying Latin or mathematics. His curiosity about the natural world, however, grew into a passion that shaped his destiny. In 1831, Darwin embarked on a 5-year voyage aboard the HMS Beagle. This journey proved to be the defining experience of his life. As the ship traveled to South America, the Galapagos Islands, and beyond, Darwin collected thousands of specimens and filled notebooks with observations. He noticed subtle differences in species from island to island: finches with varying beak shapes, tortoises with different shells that hinted at something profound. Life was not fixed, but adapting to its environment. After years of study and reflection, Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859. In it, he presented his groundbreaking theory of evolution by natural selection, arguing that all species descend from common ancestors and that those best suited to survive will pass their traits to the next generation. The book was revolutionary. It challenged long-held religious and scientific beliefs, sparking debates that continue to this day. Darwin's personal life was also marked by both joy and sorrow. He married his cousin, Emma Wedgwood, and together they had 10 children. While their marriage was filled with affection, tragedy struck as several of their children died young, and others struggled with fragile health. Historians believe that generations of intermarriage within the Darwin and Wedgwood families may have contributed to these hardships. This shadow of personal loss gave Darwin's reflections on life, death, and survival an even more human dimension. Though shy and often plagued by illness, Darwin remained committed to his work. He continued to publish influential books, expanding on evolution and exploring topics from human emotions to the role of earthworms in soil formation. He spent most of his later years at his home in Down House, quietly shaping ideas that would ripple through science, philosophy, and culture for centuries. Darwin died in 1882 and was buried in Westminster Abbey, near Isaac Newton, a recognition of his immense impact on human thought. Today, his theory of evolution stands as one of the cornerstones of modern biology. More than just a scientist, Darwin was a patient observer of nature, a man who turned small details like the curve of a bird's beak into a grand explanation for the diversity of life on Earth. His legacy reminds us that the world is ever-changing, and so are we. Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei, often called the father of modern science, was a revolutionary thinker who challenged centuries of accepted beliefs about the universe. Born in Pisa, Italy in 1564, he showed early talent for mathematics and natural philosophy. His relentless curiosity and willingness to test ideas through observation and experiment set him apart from many scholars of his age. Galileo made lasting contributions in physics, discovering the principles of motion and proving that objects fall at the same rate, regardless of their weight, contrary to what people had believed for centuries. He also built some of the first telescopes powerful enough to observe the heavens in detail. With them, he discovered the moons of Jupiter, the phases of Venus, and the rugged surface of the moon, evidence that shattered the notion of a perfect, unchanging sky. Most controversially, Galileo championed the heliocentric model of the universe, which placed the Sun, not Earth, at the center of the solar system. This idea, originally proposed by Copernicus, went against the teachings of the Catholic Church at the time. For his beliefs, Galileo was tried by the Inquisition, forced to recant publicly, and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. Yet even in confinement he continued to write and study, famously remarking, "And yet it moves, about Earth's motion around the Sunday." Despite persecution, Galileo's work laid the foundation for modern astronomy and physics. His insistence on observation, evidence, and the scientific method reshaped how humanity seeks truth. Today, he is remembered not only for his discoveries but for his courage to challenge authority in the pursuit of knowledge. Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton is remembered as one of the greatest scientific minds of all time, a man whose discoveries still shape how we understand the physical world. Born in 1642 inches, England, Newton showed little promise as a child, but his fascination with mechanics and mathematics grew steadily. At Cambridge University, he began developing the ideas that would later transform science. Newton is best known for formulating the laws of motion and universal gravitation, the foundation of classical physics. The story of the falling apple, where he wondered why objects fall to the ground instead of drifting upward, has become legendary. His insights explain not just why apples fall, but also why planets orbit the sun, uniting the heavens and the earth under the same set of rules. Beyond gravity, Newton made major contributions to mathematics by inventing calculus, to optics by discovering the spectrum of light, and to astronomy by designing the first practical reflecting telescope. His brilliance was matched by an intense focus. He often worked in isolation, pushing himself relentlessly to solve the mysteries of nature. Despite his scientific genius, Newton struggled in other areas. Later in life, he made disastrous investments that cost him much of his fortune. He also never married, devoting his energy entirely to scholarship and service. As president of the Royal Society and master of the Royal Mint, he left his mark not only on science but also on public life in England. Newton's laws stood as the foundation of physics for centuries, until Einstein expanded upon them with relativity. Even today, his principles remain essential in engineering, astronomy, and everyday science. Newton is not just a historical figure, he is the architect of the modern scientific worldview. Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is often called the ultimate Renaissance man, a figure whose brilliance reached across art, science, and invention. Born in 1452 inches, Vinci, Italy, he grew up with little formal schooling but taught himself through observation and relentless curiosity. From painting to engineering, anatomy to architecture, Leonardo seemed capable of mastering anything he touched. As a painter, he created some of the most famous works in history. The Mona Lisa, with her mysterious smile, has become the most recognized painting in the world, while The Last Supper remains a masterpiece of religious art and storytelling. His art reflected not only technical skill but also a deep study of human anatomy. To perfect his drawings, he dissected bodies and recorded his findings in detailed sketches, bridging art and science in ways few had ever attempted. Leonardo was also a visionary inventor. His notebooks contained designs for machines that would not become reality until centuries later: helicopters, submarines, armored vehicles, even concepts resembling modern robotics. Although many of these ideas remained on paper, they showed a mind far ahead of its time, blending imagination with engineering insight. He was equally fascinated by the written word, often filling his journals with mirrored handwriting script that could only be read when held up to a mirror. This unusual habit has added to the aura of mystery surrounding him. His unconventional lifestyle, from his strict work habits to his rumored private struggles, only deepens the intrigue. Leonardo da Vinci died in 1519, leaving behind unfinished works and notebooks filled with genius. Yet his legacy endures as a symbol of human creativity and boundless potential. To this day, Leonardo represents the idea that art, science, and imagination are not separate worlds, but parts of the same quest to understand life itself. Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur is remembered as the man who brought science into everyday life, the father of microbiology and modern vaccination. Born in 1822 inches, the small town of Dole, France, Pasteur was not considered an exceptional student as a child. He preferred drawing to studying, and his early teachers did not see signs of genius. Yet, as he matured, his determination and curiosity led him into the field of chemistry, where his true brilliance began to shine. Pasteur first made his mark by studying fermentation. He proved that microorganisms, not spontaneous generation, caused the process, overturning centuries of belief. This insight led to his development of pasteurization, the method of heating liquids like milk and wine to kill harmful bacteria without affecting taste. That single discovery has saved countless lives and remains in use around the world today. His research did not stop there. Pasteur turned his attention to infectious diseases, convinced that tiny microbes were the cause. At a time when many doctors still operated without washing their hands, his work revealed the invisible world of germs and their role in spreading illness. His experiments helped reduce infection rates dramatically and laid the foundation for modern hygiene and antiseptic practices in medicine. Pasteur's most celebrated achievements came with vaccines. He developed the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax, diseases that had terrified communities for centuries. In one famous case, he treated a young boy who had been bitten by a rabid dog, successfully saving his life. News of this miracle spread quickly, earning Pasteur international fame and the gratitude of millions. Despite setbacks and criticism, Pasteur remained fiercely committed to science. He often pushed himself through illness and partial paralysis to continue his work. His later years were spent directing the Pasteur Institute in Paris, which became a leading center for scientific research and medical advancement. Louis Pasteur died in 1895, but his impact is everywhere. In every glass of safe milk, in every vaccine that prevents disease, and in every surgical room where sterility saves lives. He transformed the fight against illness from superstition to science, proving that knowledge and persistence could conquer even invisible enemies. Pasteur's legacy is not only scientific, it is profoundly human, rooted in the desire to protect life and ease suffering. Marie Curie. Marie Curie is remembered as the woman who brought light to both science and humanity. Born in 1867 inches, Warsaw, Poland, she grew up in a country divided and under foreign rule. Her family valued education deeply, but opportunities for women were scarce. From an early age, Marie showed exceptional intelligence and determination. When universities in Poland refused to admit women, she secretly joined an underground school that taught forbidden subjects, a quiet act of rebellion that revealed the strength she would carry all her life. In her 20s, Marie moved to Paris to continue her studies at the Sorbonne. The transition was harsh. She lived in a cold attic, often hungry and exhausted, yet she never lost her focus. Surrounded by science books and notebooks filled with equations, she found purpose in discovery. It was there that she met Pierre Curie, a brilliant physicist who shared her curiosity and humility. Together, they built a partnership founded on love, respect, and an unrelenting pursuit of knowledge. Working side by side in a modest laboratory, the Curies discovered two new elements, polonium and radium, and revealed the mysterious phenomenon of radioactivity. Their findings transformed modern physics and medicine, and in 1903, Marie Curie became the first woman ever awarded a Nobel Prize. 8 years later, she earned a second one in chemistry, becoming the only person in history to receive Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. Behind the acclaim was a life of sacrifice. After Pierre's sudden death, Marie continued their research alone, raising 2 daughters while enduring exhaustion and illness from years of radiation exposure. Yet she never stopped believing that science could serve humanity. When Marie Curie died in 1934, she left behind more than discoveries. She left a legacy of courage, intellect, and compassion. Her life proved that knowledge is not only power, but a light that still guides every scientist who dares to dream. Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is remembered as one of the greatest composers in history, a musical prodigy whose genius emerged almost as soon as he could walk and talk. Born in Salzburg, Austria, in 1756, Mozart was the son of Leopold Mozart, a respected musician and teacher. By the age of 3, young Wolfgang could already recognize musical notes, and at 4 he was composing simple pieces. By 6, he was performing across Europe, astonishing audiences with his skill at the keyboard and violin. Throughout his short but prolific life, Mozart composed more than 600 works, including symphonies, concertos, chamber music, and operas. His music combined technical brilliance with emotional depth, from the playful charm of the magic flute to the dramatic power of Don Giovanni and the sacred beauty of his unfinished Requiem. He had an extraordinary ability to hear entire compositions in his mind and write them down with little need for revision. Yet Mozart's life was far from easy. Despite his fame, he often struggled financially and clashed with aristocratic patrons who tried to limit his creative freedom. He longed for independence, choosing to follow his artistic vision rather than secure a stable court position. That decision gave the world some of his most daring works, but it also left him vulnerable to poverty and instability. Mozart died in 1791 at only 35 years old, under mysterious circumstances that have fueled speculation ever since. He was buried in a simple grave, far from the grandeur his music deserved, and yet his legacy outshines the hardships of his life. Centuries later, Mozart's music continues to inspire, delight, and remind us of the boundless possibilities of human creativity. Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla is often described as the genius who was decades, even centuries ahead of his time. Born in 1,856 inches, what is now Croatia, Tesla showed extraordinary abilities from an early age. He could perform complex calculations in his head and often envisioned entire inventions in detail before ever putting them to paper. This gift, combined with his relentless drive, set him on a path to become one of the most visionary inventors in history. After studying engineering in Europe, Tesla immigrated to the United States in 1884 with little more than a letter of introduction. He briefly worked for Thomas Edison, but the two quickly clashed. Edison championed direct current, DC electricity, while Tesla believed alternating current, AC, was far more practical for delivering power over long distances. Their rivalry, often called the War of Currents, became legendary. In the end, Tesla's AC system triumphed, laying the foundation for the modern electrical grid that powers the world today. Tesla's mind never stopped racing. He patented more than 300 inventions, ranging from electric motors and transformers to radio waves and remote-controlled devices. In 1893, he stunned the public by lighting the World's Fair in Chicago with AC power, proving its safety and efficiency. Later, he demonstrated wireless technology by remotely operating a small boat, an invention that foreshadowed everything from radio to modern drones. But Tesla was also eccentric. He suffered from obsessive routines and had a fascination with numbers, particularly 3, 6, and 9. He avoided pearls, insisted on dining with a specific number of napkins, and lived much of his life alone. These quirks, combined with his unconventional ideas such as harnessing wireless energy from the atmosphere, led many to label him a mad scientist. Despite his brilliance, Tesla struggled financially. He was often outmaneuvered by businessmen and died in 1,943 inches, a New York hotel room, poor and largely forgotten. Yet history has since reclaimed his legacy. Today, Tesla is celebrated not only as the father of modern electricity, but also as a symbol of boundless imagination and innovation. His ideas paved the way for technologies that shape our daily lives, from radio to wireless communication to renewable energy. Nikola Tesla's life is a reminder that genius is not always understood in its own time. Though he lived with hardship and eccentricity, his vision of a world connected by energy and invention continues to inspire dreamers and innovators across generations. William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is often called the greatest playwright in the English language and one of the most influential figures in world literature. Born in 1,564 inches, Stratford-upon-Avon, England, he came from modest beginnings as the son of a glovemaker. Details about his early life are scarce, but by his 20s, Shakespeare had moved to London, where he began his career as both an actor and a writer. Shakespeare's plays captured the full range of human experience: love, jealousy, ambition, betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Works like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Othello, and King Lear continue to be performed more than 400 years later, speaking to emotions and conflicts that still feel strikingly modern. His comedies, such as A Midsummer Night's Dream and Much Ado About Nothing, combined wit and romance, while his histories brought to life the struggles of kings and nations. Beyond their stories, Shakespeare's plays transformed the English language itself. He coined phrases and expressions still in use today, and his mastery of rhythm and poetry gave English literature a new power and beauty. His ability to create complex characters, heroes haunted by doubt, villains driven by ambition, lovers torn by circumstance, made his work timeless. Shakespeare also experienced the political and social realities of his time. His acting company performed for Queen Elizabeth I and later King James I, gaining royal patronage. Yet theater in Elizabethan England was not always secure. Outbreaks of plague often closed the playhouses, and censorship by authorities sometimes threatened the content of his works. Still, Shakespeare navigated these challenges with skill, producing nearly 40 plays and over 150 sonnets. Financially, he succeeded as well. By his early 30s, he had invested in theaters and real estate, allowing him to retire comfortably in Stratford. But his career was not without setbacks. Toward the end of his life, some critics dismissed his style, and later generations even speculated about whether he truly wrote the plays attributed to him. Despite these debates, his influence only grew after his death in 1616. Shakespeare was buried in his hometown, where his epitaph famously warns against moving his bones. Over the centuries, his reputation has risen to legendary heights. Today, Shakespeare is more than a writer. He is a cultural touchstone whose words shape literature, theater, film, and even everyday conversation. His genius lies not only in his command of language, but in his deep understanding of what it means to be human. Genius isn't always easy to understand, but hey, that's why we're here to simplify it. If you enjoyed this one, give it a like, hit subscribe, and let's keep turning complicated stuff into stories. See you in the next one only on Simplify It.